Deputy Mattie McGrath.
My God, well, hope springs eternal, Cancol, and hopefully you'll get a night in Hanover's cottage as well before the year is out. In the lovely famed Nile Valley, just across the boundary from me. I want to speak on the Planning and Development Heritage Broadcasting Amendment Bill 2021, also out of a second stage. And I want to talk about our built heritage. And indeed, Minister, I just approached you there, but I had written to you about a wonderful, majestic, historic building on the pleasant banks of the tranquil river shore, and Knockcofty, the main Knockcofty House Hotel in Tipperary. A wonderful house. You might be surprised, Count with Queen Victoria's bust on top of it and William of Orange on top of it, that I'm wanting to keep it saved. I do, for a very particular reason, because it's very part of our built heritage. There's 365 windows overlooking the sea. There's an amount of history in it about Laffic O'Leinchik and the fiddle that would only play because he was couple like Laffic O'Leinchik. I'll tell you the story when you come, Minister. You'll be most welcome across the Tipperary, just across the road. You must come into Waterford and Trastna and down to Tipperary. This house was home to Lord and Lady Dunamore, and indeed the Dunamore family and the Guinness family. And I remember knocking on the door one day as a young man selling grass seeds, and knocking on the door and be greeted by the lovely Lord Dunamore, in fairness to him, and his two Alsatian dogs. I thought I was going to be eaten alive, but no, I got a lovely welcome. And I want to say that back in the trouble time, and this is directly from my father, so it's in the Dáil who was an active service member in the old area and proud of the 3rd Tipperary Brigade, the Newcastle Battalion, and the Grange Battalions. And I was took part in actually removing some of the orchard in the business that I'm in now, there back in the 80s. They had an orchard, and those freedom fighters drilled in the orchard and practiced. They then got refuge in some of the outhouses and the buildings during the troubled times when they were on the run, and looked after their pleasantry. And Lord Dunamore went over to the House of Lords and condemned the actions of the Black and Tans in Ireland and what was going on. And his house was spared. It was never burned like many houses in Tipperary were burned to the ground, and his was spared. And we must keep that as a memory, and to keep the heritage of King Orange and Queen Victoria as well, William of Orange. Even though when you go to Belfast City Hall, you get a one-sided story about King Billy. But look, it's our heritage. We must look after it. It's been raped and plundered. The lead has been taken out of the roofs. I want to thank Jonathan Flood, Senior Planner in Tipperary County Council, and Tony O'Mara, who have come out after requests from myself and Councillor Maureen McGrath and others, and a Facebook page set up to save Knockcofty House. It's a wonderful built heritage, as I said. At the time when I was young, there was 50, 60 people working there, and a big bell in the yard, like a church bell, to call people at lunchtime to their meals. And it served, and they looked after so many families and fed so many families. And many people have gone out to great things that their parents worked there. I remember one, PJ Cullen actually, worked as a gardener. The gardens were spectacular. Now it's rack and ruin, and we must do something to preserve it. And the owner, I know it's tied up in a dispute with vulture funds and an owner, and it's in the courts, but that doesn't say that it should be allowed to fall into this state of disrepair. Weddings, front fairs, county council meetings were held there, different leader launches were held there, and it shouldn't be the way it is. So it's our heritage. You'll be welcome to see it, please. I too, and many people want that restored, and that is very important, that we have our history and we learn from it, especially now this year of this decade of commemorations. Commemorate all traditions and none. And like fearful for road go di Tipperary has as Knockcofty House Tara. I have to also say that I am concerned about, I welcome today that Taoiseach told us there were 60 new heritage officers, wildlife rangers being appointed. Very welcome, they have a hard job to do. But we need balance here. I too was appalled that Minister Jofita Mannigan, your predecessor, just threw out like a bucket of water out over a gate, threw out the hard work of 2 years' work from committees and farmers and different groups to try and have sensible hedge cutting on roadsides in dangerous areas. Not going into the fields where the birds are nesting. The birds don't nest normally in the bushes. And health and safety and people's safety, cyclists, motorists and indeed pedestrians must come first at all costs as far as I'm concerned. I also have Mark Fuckel's score with RTE. There must be fairer distribution of the funding. The television licence has been paid for there and by all people, and the vast majority of people. And Tip FM and Tip Midwest area, West Radio must get fair shares, and the community radios that started up, and even smaller community radios, must be allowed some of this funding. It's time we dealt with this. It's not fairly distributed. And TG Cahard, the Oberstar rule, and they do, and they must be supported. And the different parties for podcasts, we must look at broadcasting in a wholly different area, not a monopoly anymore. It's important that the heritage and the history and the star and the whole business of people all over Ireland is heard, not just Montrose and Dublin 4. It's Dublin doesn't end at the Naas Road, and RT must be made aware of that. Good.
Thank you, Deputy McGrath.